Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. And as you can see here, we're going to jump aboard a trend. I've seen a lot of these already, and basically, the real reason why I'm doing this is I got some new toys to play with, some new screen capturing tools, some streaming tools, so I wanted to try something out. And the reason what I'm going to do here, as you can see, Tier Maker, I'm sure you've seen every channel's done one of these. I know Cultaholic and or What Culture, one of them's done them. But basically, like I said, I want to test out some new toys. I thought this would be a cool way to do it. So what I'm going to do is the All Elite Wrestling roster as of 2019 in November. What I have here is I have the ratings. I have the main event, which is, of course, the people on top of the card. Upper mid card, guys that if there was like a U.S. or Intercontinental title, that's where they would fit in, guys and girls, because we're going to do the entire roster. Mid card, which would be the people that are in that area that are contending for that mid card type title. Player coaches, which is self-explanatory. Basically, there's a lot of them on the AEW roster where they're there to be a coach in the ring. And last but not least, the lower card. And with these rankings, it's no indictment on the wrestler themselves. There's a lot of the people that are going to end up in the lower card that I like as wrestlers. It's just where they happen to be placed right now. So, with all that being said, let's jump right into it. Our first wrestler is going to be Hangman Adam Page, and I'm going to put him in the main event. It's a I think that's where he is fitting in right now, and I don't know why that came up, but I think it's going to keep coming up because I don't think my camera understands that it's being a webcam right now. But yeah, I'm going to put Adam Page in the main event. I think if there was an Intercontinental type title, he'd probably be in that picture, but for now, we're going to put him there. Next, we have Allie. I think Allie is solidly in the mid card right now. Um, I don't think that she's someone they're planning on using in the top, and I don't know what their plans with her are, but she doesn't seem to be one they're focusing on. And Helico and Jack Evans, and I tried to break up the teams as a one selection. That way, this wouldn't take 6 hours to do. And Helico and Jack Evans, unfortunately, with the way they being portrayed, I'm going to have to put them in the lower card. I know they're a fantastic team. I've seen a lot of their work. I'm a fan of both of these guys, but I'm just calling it as I see it. I do see at some point them pulling in Helico out of the team and him being a successful solo star, kind of like he was a little bit in Lucha Underground, but I don't know that that's going to happen for a while. Next up, we have Amazing Kong or Awesome Kong, and I'm going to put her firmly into player coaches. I don't see her. She might get a run with the women's title, but I see her being there more as a conduit to teach the younger wrestlers what it is to be one of the biggest stars in women's wrestling. Bea Priestley, I'm going to put her up here with Allie in the mid card. I don't know that she's penciled in to be, one of the top stars of the company as of yet, but again, it's a little early on some of these to know what they're doing, but this is kind of how the vibe I feel on this. Best friends, I think they're going to be upper mid card. I think they're going to be the perennial challengers for the tag titles and even have some tag title runs. They're someone that the fans absolutely love, so I could see them being used in that role. Next up, we have Brandy Rhodes. I I want to think that she's going to be up here in the main event or upper mid card, but the way she's been portrayed right now, I guess I got to keep hitting that, is that she's a mid card talent. She really hasn't done much of anything other than some tag team matches, so we're going to put her in the mid card. Brandon Cutler, I love you, my friend. I think you're awesome, but you're obviously there to put other people over. And that's not a bad position to be in, but I hate putting you down here because I know you're actually really talented, and I know if given the opportunity, you can go up further, and hopefully he will get that opportunity at some point. But with the way he's being portrayed now, he's solidly down in the lower card. Next up, we have Dr. Britt Baker, and I know that she's one of the focuses. I believe that they're wanting her to be the star of the women's division as far as an American wrestler. So obviously, she's being pushed as a top tier talent, a main event star. Next up, this one's an easy one. Chris Jericho. He's their first and only world champion as of right now, so obviously he's a main event guy. Next up, we have Shima, depending on how you pronounce it. And he's going to go in the player coach role. I don't see him ever really winning any championships here. I see him more as a conduit between OWE and AEW. And when he does wrestle in AEW, I see him more in a role of putting other guys over and making them look great. Next up, we have Cody Rhodes, or just Cody. I'm putting him solidly in the main event as he deserves to be. Week after week, pay-per-view after pay-per-view, Cody's either in the best segment of the night or he's in the best match of the night. So, can't argue with him being up here. He's going to challenge in roughly a week for the title, so he's obviously deserving of this role. Next up, we have Darby Allin. Darby, I'm going to put in the upper mid-card. I kind of think he surprised them a little bit. I don't think that they knew that he would get as great of a reaction as he has already. And I think it's leaving them scrambling a bit, and there's that stupid thing again. But Darby, I think he's one of the breakout stars of AEW so far. I think he's a guy that, like I said, I think he surprised even them a little bit with how popular he's got right away. I think if he's not already penciled in to be a main event guy, he is going to be very shortly. So I'm going to put him here in the upper mid card. Next up, we have the Dark Order. This is kind of the opposite of Darby Allin. I'm going to put them in the mid card because I think they were meant to be one of the top tier teams in AEW, and obviously they're a great team. But this incarnation, the Dark Order, just doesn't seem to be catching on with either the pre-built AEW fan base, which I think a lot of them know who these guys are and have known them for years, or the new fans that have jumped on since the company's come about. And I don't think they've gained that popularity. I think it's kind of obvious. You can see that they're switching gears on these guys where early on, Double or Nothing, they were made to look like a serious threat and a serious commodity, whereas now I don't think they're taken as seriously as far as company-wise. So with that being said, I'm going to put them in the mid-card because I think they're kind of in a point of flux right now. Gotta fix something real quick. There we go. Oh, it's over here. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulty. I pulled the camera plug out, which could be why we keep getting that power mode issue coming up. Didn't realize it. The plug's behind me, so I must have rolled over it. Sorry, guys. Anyway. Next up, we have Dustin Rhodes. Obviously, he's going to go into player coach role. I'd love to see them give him a run with the big title. I think he's someone that has been criminally underrated. Even as good as people speak of Dustin Rhodes and Goldust, I think he's been criminally undervalued. He should have been a WWE champion. And there's no and if or buts about it. And it's not like over the last 10 years he couldn't work, because if you see what he's doing now, it's obvious that he could have done this now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in the Attitude Era when he was at his peak. I think he's a guy that they've kind of has never really gotten the due for how great he really is. In actuality, he's probably a top 5 wrestler over the last 20 years, but he hasn't been treated as such. And that's a real shame because Dustin Rhodes is an extremely talented individual. Next up, we have, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Emmy Sakura, and I know I pronounced it wrong. Emmy, she's going to fall in that role as well as a player coach. They mention it every time she comes out that she trained Riho and she's trained all these superstars and she's a legend in Japan, which she is. It's not a lie, but I don't think that means. I think that means that they're not really focusing on her being a talent there. I think that she's more going to be much in the role of like these other people I said, where she's more of coaching the younger wrestlers, being someone that's credible that they can get a win over, where you could pile up wins. You could pile up wins on any of these player coaches, and they're still going to be as legendary as any other time in their history. So yeah, so I see that as I see her falling into that role. Next up, we have Hikaru Shida, and I probably mispronounced that again. I think I'm going to put her in the upper middle card because I think she's one of the people that they really want to push as a main person in the women's division, but I don't think they want to do that while Riho is a champion. I don't think they want to have all the Joshis be in the top. So for now, she's kind of not necessarily pushed to the back or pushed down the card so much as you see here. She's only, upper mid card, which I think they're going to build her a bit and eventually make her a champion contender. I don't think she's going to be the one that takes it off Riho, but she might be the one that takes it off the person that takes it off of Riho, if you know what I mean. Next up, we have Jake Hager. I'm going to put him in the upper mid card right now because we haven't seen him wrestle a match as of this taping. So that's where I'm going to put him. He's been treated as a star. He's been treated as a big name guy. He's been treated as a guy that is going to come in and destroy everything, kind of like their Brock Lesnar almost. And he's got that air of believability to him. Like I said, though, I just can't put him in the main mid or top tier main event guys right now because we haven't seen him wrestle yet. Jimmy Havoc, as much as I hate to say this, I'm going to put you in the lower card, almost like a player coach kind of position. And he might be that. And Jimmy Havoc, I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's great. I've liked him for a long time. I like a lot of his deathmatch stuff. I know he has his detractors because of that. But he seems to be the guy that's not picking up any wins. He seems to be, like I said, and you know what? I'm going to move him back. I'm going to move him up to player coach. He seems to be a guy that they're using as someone with name value, and he does have some name value, mostly to the British viewers and people that like deathmatch wrestling, like myself, and people that like independent wrestling, again, like myself. They know of Jimmy Havoc, so getting a win over him for someone like a Darby Allin, who's lesser known, means more than, say, for instance, getting a win over John Schmo who just got out of wrestling school and no one's ever heard of him. Next up, we're going to go with Joey Janela, Jim Cornette's favorite wrestler. Joey, I'm going to put him in the mid card. He's shown flashes of being an upper tier guy, an upper mid card guy. And I think he's one of the wrestlers that's going to hurt most that they don't have a mid card belt for, because I don't see him winning the world championship at any point. But I could see him being a guy considered for an Intercontinental US TV title, whatever they want to call their mid-card title. A friend of mine, Paul Pickett, Papa Pickett, I've mentioned him a million times. He has his own YouTube channel, which you should go check out because he's awesome. Me and him were talking, and we kind of came up with the idea, even if it's just on pay-per-view, maybe they should have a deathmatch title. I know there's a certain fan base that it's going to push away, but if it's only once, one match on a pay-per-view, every pay-per-view, why not? Or maybe once a year they have a deathmatch tournament show that's either internet only or pay-per-view only, where guys like Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela could shine. And Joey is, both of those guys actually, don't get me wrong, they're actually quality wrestlers without the deathmatch gimmicks. I just think it's where they would shine the most. And I think Joey would also shine in being a mid-card US TV, War, Intercontinental, North American, whatever the heck you want to call the title. Hell, you could call it the AEW Cracker Barrel Championship and get some get some of that money from him in there. But I think that's what's going to hurt him the most. Next up, we have Jon Moxley. And obviously, John's up in the main card here. He would be a guy in that deathmatch tournament that I think would be the star that could be beat by a Joey Janela at the end. However, as of right now, he's firmly entrenched in the top tier talent, the main event talent, the guy that's going to be, wrestling the guys that are all on the top of the card. I think he's one of the biggest and most marketable names they have right now. Him and Jericho coming off, and Cody too, to an extent, and some others. But for the mainstream American wrestling fans that don't know of New Japan or Ring of Honor, they know his face. They know his face because he's been pushed down their throats in a way for the last half a decade. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He's a guy that was heavily featured on WWE television. He's a known commodity. He deserves everything he's got. He deserves more than they gave him, which is why he left. And that's why he's here at the main guy. I think he's easily going to be a guy that's going to win multiple world championships, main event high-level pay-per-views, put on great matches, and cut great promos every time. Next up, we have the Lucha Express, Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, and Jungle Boy. I'm going to put them honestly. I think they've worked their way into the upper mid-card, the upper tier of the tag teams. I think they're a team that could easily be a tag champion at any point. Luchasaurus could challenge for the world title if they so choose to go that route. Jungle Boy, if they do, I keep saying this, if they do make a mid-card title, he would be an obvious choice for that. They're a serious threat for any tag title that they have in the company, so there's that as well. So I see them firmly being in the upper mid-card here, and I think the fan interaction with them is really what's pushing them there. I think they've got a lot better reaction, much like Darby Allin, than anybody could have thought of, and it's put them in a better role, and I really enjoy that. Next up, we have Kenny Omega, which, of course, he's Kenny Omega. He is top of the card. He is main event. He's arguably the best wrestler in the world, and if you're going to argue with it, he's the second best wrestler in the world because there really isn't many better. Historically, there's not many better than Kenny Omega, and I think the reason he's not their world champion right now is they didn't want to make it where the VPs, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, where they put the belts on themselves right away because people seem to turn against that when wrestling companies, promoters do that. Everybody knows that they're the VPs, so they would be like, oh, you're the VPs, you're getting championship. You know what I mean. You get it. You've heard the argument before why Triple H won all his titles, even though he deserved them. Why Jeff Jarrett kept winning in TNA, even though most of the time he was the biggest star they had. And on and on and on and on and on. But here we have legitimately the top wrestler in the world. Or, if you want to make the argument, he does not fall out of the top five. He's a top five wrestler no matter what you say. So obviously, Kenny Omega is going to be their Ric Flair. There's no doubt about that. There's no way around it. He is too talented not to be. Next up, we have Kip Sabian. I'm going to put him down here right now in the lower card. He's had some good matches. He's had some good showings. But I don't think he's penciled in to be doing anything right now. He's not involved in any storylines. He's not in the faction with Jericho, which would have been a great place for him to fit in. I just think they're not ready to pull a trigger on him yet. And that is what it is, unfortunately. And I think as of right now, I'm going to put him down here in this area, in the lower card. Now, next up, I see, and I don't know why I separate them, so I'm going to do them both at the same time. Leva Bates and Peter Avalon, the Librarians. I don't see this gimmick being anything more than your opening Brooklyn Brawler, Red Rooster, goofy gimmick. I don't know that it's getting Peter Avalon over. I don't think he's working well. And Peter Avalon's a great wrestler. I've watched a lot of his stuff from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He's actually really good. Leva Bates is someone I think is a top tier women's talent. And I think when they break them two up, she's going to be the star of the two. No knock on Peter Avalon, but she has an it factor to her. Even if you remember when she was Blue Pants, she was brought in as an enhancement talent and got that over. And I think it's something that whatever you give her, she's going to make work. I think she would work better in her real personality, where she's kind of a nerd, where she's a cosplayer. I think she would work well if they gave her that kind of gimmick and they transitioned her out of this. Next up, we have the Lucha Brothers. You'll put them up here. They're a main event talent. They've already main evented pay-per-views. They've already main evented TV shows. Either way you look at them, as a tag team or as separate entities, both of them are top tier, are top cream of the crop wrestlers in the company. I'd love to see Rey Fenix have a run as a world champion. I think Pentagon will get a run as a world champion. But I think Rey Fenix is a guy that has only scratched the surface in America. And I know a lot of people have seen his Lucha Underground work. And I know as he's getting more and more popular in America, people are seeing more of his stuff. Pentagon has a better character. He has the charisma times a million. Rey Fenix, I don't think you need to sleep on, though. I think if we were to look at the two of them, Pentagon is the equivalent of Eddie Guerrero, and Rey Fenix is the equivalent of Rey Mysterio. So I think that's probably as high a praise as I can give the two of them. I think they're awesome as a team, as solos, and I think they're the top of the food chain here. Next up, we have Michael Nakazawa. And Nakazawa, sorry. Naka, you're on the bottom. That made me cough. Sorry about that. I like the guy. I find him entertaining. Much like I said with the Librarians, I don't see the character or the gimmick being anything that could be pushed as anything other than a fun spot on the pay-per-view or on the show or on Being the Elite. I just don't see him. I couldn't see Michael Nakazawa as a champion or tag champion or any kind of prominent role. He's a fun wrestler to have. He's a funny guy. His matches are interesting, no matter what people on the internet say. Jim Cornette. He is someone that I think people like to watch, and I think people get a kick out of. And I think look, I wouldn't fire him, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the main event. Coming up next, we're going to put this guy MJF, we're going to put him in the upper mid card. I just think if you look at it and you look at it right now, the 5 main event guys that I have up there, I don't think he's on the level of Page, Jericho, Cody, Moxley, or Omega. I think he can be really soon, and he's one of the fastest rising stars in wrestling. It's not a lie when they say that. He's when he does eventually turn on Cody, because that is going to eventually happen, he's going to be probably their top heel, and I think that's when the trigger is going to pull to bring him up to the main event level. As of right now, he's another guy who'd be well suited being a U.S. champion and Intercontinental champion, a mid card title for a long run, 6, 7, 8 months before they decide to move him upwards in the card. But any way you look at it, this is a blue chipper. Him and Darby Allin, they've got some chips to build on in the future, as well as having guys that are there and established already. Now, next up, we're going to go with Nyla Rose. I'm going to put her in the upper mid card. I don't think that she's necessarily a main event in the women's division right now. She's been, to be honest with you, they portrayed her as she was going to be, but she doesn't have the win-loss record to make her that. So I'm going to put her here for right now. At any time, she could be a main eventer. And all she needs is like a 5-match win streak where she destroys everybody. Heck, she could have a 2-match win streak destroying everybody and then becoming the women's champion, and it'll be believable. I mean, she's one of the most credible and believable characters they have. One of the people, to me, and I don't mean this as a knock on other wrestlers on the card, but she looks like she can beat everybody's ass in that division. Jake Hager has the same look. He's so much bigger and he's so talented that he looks and feels like he can destroy everybody. Jon Moxley has that feeling, that he has that psychotic feeling where he feels real at what he's doing. Now, next up, we have Orange Cassidy. I'm going to put him here higher than he probably deserves to be, because we've only seen him in like 1 or 2 matches. But Orange is he's one of the breakout stars, in my opinion. Him, MJF, Darby Allin, people that, in the beginning, they weren't stars coming into that, but they are going to be stars going forward. So I see him being an upper mid card guy, and I think a lot of this is on the fans. The reaction he's getting the reaction of a main eventer, and his gimmick is so good, and detractors aside, I really enjoy what he's doing. And I think there's always going to be a split on him where about half the crowd enjoys his work and the other half doesn't like it, that thinks it's making fun of wrestling. I think he's more fit for this generation of fans, for millennial fans, for slacker fans, if you want to say that, for apathetic fans. So I think it's a good port. I think he fits in a good role here. And I think he's eventually, like I said, I think he's a guy that can eventually carry the main event title. And I hate to keep harping on this, but they need a mid card title for some of these guys, and that obviously you see here are not fitting into that upper main event. Next up, we have Pac. Pac has been portrayed as a top guy in the company. He's a main eventer. He's main evented shows already. He's in high level feuds. He's beat Kenny Omega. So obviously he's a guy that they're penciling in as one of their stars of their company, and for very good reason. He's an amazing talent, and he deserves to be up there in the upper echelon of the company. Next up, we have Penelope Ford. I'm going to put her here in the mid card. Kind of, the women's division's kind of been, I don't want to say underwhelming, but I kind of don't see as much direction as I do with the men's division, and maybe it's because there's only one match per show, or maybe who knows what the reasoning is, but I don't know that some of these women like Penelope Ford, like Allie, like Bea Priestley, have a direction as of yet, which is why I'm going to put them here in the mid card because I don't know where they're going with them as of yet. Next up, we have Private Party, who I'm going to put in the upper mid card. These guys are going to be tag team champions very, very soon. Again, another set of breakout stars. It's been made very obvious that AEW knows the next generation of talent that's coming up, and they've got some of them on their roster already. They've got people like the Luchasauruses and Jungle Boy and MJF and Darby Allin and Private Party and Orange Cassidy, who are that next tier that, let's say there wasn't an AEW, these would be the guys that would be blowing up in New Japan and Evolve and Dragon Gate and PWG and Ring of Honor right now. And they kind of got them, and I think they've already established themselves as a top tier team, and I think they're going to be a serious threat. And before you know it, I think they're going to be tag team champions. Next up, we have the women's champion, Riho. So obviously, Riho's going right up to the top of the card. You know, there's not much you could say about her. She wouldn't have been my choice to be the world champion right away. And I'm not knocking her. She's very talented and she's a very good wrestler. I just think there's other people I would have picked personally. Britt Baker being one of them, Nyla Rose being another. But I do think that Riho is obvious they're pushing her as the main woman on their roster right now, and it's for a very good reason. And it's she's going to bring a certain fan base. She's going to bring that Japanese Joshi fan to the company, and that's going to help them out a lot. They're a company that's kind of finding their legs, finding their finding where they fit in. So I believe she's going to go in here very well. Next up, we have Sadie Gibbs. Sadie, again, I have to put her here in the mid card because we don't know enough about the women's division to know where she's going to fit in. And it's starting to be painfully obvious that they don't really have much of a direction yet with the women's division, which is one of the minor knocks I have right now on AEW, is that there's not much of a defined role for a lot of the women's talent. Next up, we're going to have Sammy Guevara. I'm going to put him here in the mid card. Again, another one of these guys that's going to be a young breakout star for them. His partnering with Jericho in the Inner Circle is a very great. I think it's a great thing for him. He's going to learn on the fly from Chris Jericho, which how can you not enjoy that? I mean, probably one of the top 2 or 3 guys in wrestling over the last 20 years, 25 years. You can't go wrong with that. So I'm going to put him right here. I don't think he's ready, and I think he's got some of it. He's got the in-ring talent. He's got some of the personality. There needs to be a point where it clicks in, and I don't think that's happened just yet for him. But when it does, he's going to be a main eventer. Next up, we have Pride and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, and they're obviously being portrayed right now as an upper mid-card tag team, even though they had few matches. I think it's more based on who they're attacking and where they're going. As a matter of fact, I think they're actually a main event tag team, and they're everything about them, their history, the way they're being portrayed, I think puts them right here in the main event. And I think for good reason, they're one of the top tag teams in the world right now. Next up, we have SCU, which should be in the player coaches area. However, I'm going to put them here in the upper mid card, and I know they're the tag team champions currently, and I know that should put them in the top tier. But hear me out on this. I only think that SCU is tag team champions so they can build one of these heel tag teams beating a legendary team, which SCU is at this point. And once they do, I think we're going to see SCU fall more into this role where they're transitional champions, sometimes champions, and that's where I see them as being that can hold the belt for a week or two while it goes between Private Party and the Young Bucks. Then they could split off and you could have Scorpio Sky defending the world or challenging for the world title, or Kazarian or Christopher Daniels. I think that this is about where they're going to be, and that's more of a projection on the future than where they are now. Where they are now is top of the food chain. So to me, I think that's, like I said, it's more of a prediction on the future than it is where they're at currently. Next up, we have Shayna, who we just recently seen. And again, I'm going to have to throw her in the mid card because, well, actually, yeah, because I don't know what they're going to do with her. And it's being more and more obvious as I'm making this list. I don't know what they're going to do with most of these women on their roster. So, without knowing or having any clear cut role for her, I can't put her any higher than mid card. I don't want to put her on the lower card because I don't know what they're going to do with her. They haven't made it obvious that she's a jobber yet, so there's that. Next up, we have Shawn Spears. I'm going to put him here in the mid card. I think it's pretty obvious. They're going to use his name value, and as wrong as this sounds, what Cody Rhodes said about him that set off that feud is actually right. He's a good hand. He's a guy that you could trust to have a good match with Darby Allin, with Hangman Page, with Jimmy Havoc, with Brandon Cutler, with anybody on your roster. He's a guy that's, they could fit in anywhere, and he looks credible going for the title. He also looks credible if he's in the bottom of the card opening the show, which I think you need those guys that'll do that. Again, another guy, another person that would benefit from a mid-card title, because I don't think he's ever going to be world champion. But he's definitely a guy that's great to have on your roster, because fans are going to react to him, whether it's like or dislike. They're going to react to him, and he's going to be someone that they deserve put in there. Next up, we have Sonny Kiss. I'm going to put him up in the mid-card role right now. And this isn't a knock on Sonny. I like Sonny a lot. I love the gimmick. He's got an insane amount of charisma. I don't know yet that they're willing to pull the trigger on putting him in a bigger role. And this is going to sound worse than it is. I don't know that they trust their fan base to get behind a Sonny Kiss. And I'm not talking about the vocal fan base, the people that have sold out the shows in 5, 10, 20 minutes, the people that have been watching Being the Elite for the last 2 years. I'm talking about the casual fan base, the Joe and Jane six-pack that came home from work all day and they're flipping through the channels and they see wrestling and they go, I like wrestling, I'm going to stop. I don't know that they yet trust that those viewers would gravitate to Sonny Kiss. And I think, again, he's gonna get there. He's gonna be there. I just don't think that he's there yet. And it's no knock on him at all. Just like I said, no knock on any of these wrestlers where I put them. Just unfortunately, there's people that have to take some of these roles. Next up, we have Wardlow. We haven't seen anything of Wardlow, so I'm going to put him down here. Actually, I'm going to put him in the mid card, like I said, with all the with the women. Um, I haven't been shown that he's going to be anything other than the mid carder, so all we have is promos on him. So that's all we know as of right now. Got the Young Bucks coming up next. Of course, they're the main event talent. Much like I said with Kenny Omega, probably should have been the first tag team champions, but they're not for obvious reasons, same reasons as Kenny Omega. But it could be argued over the last decade, if they're not the top tag team in the world, they're number 2 or 3. And obviously, they're the main tag team in the company. And last but not least, Yuka Sakazaki, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, Sakazaki. I had to look at it. Sorry. I have trouble pronouncing Japanese names. I do apologize with that. I don't mean to offend anybody if I do. I'm going to put her here in the mid card, much like I've said with most of the women's division. It hasn't been glaringly apparent what they want to do with her, so I don't know where to put her. I don't know if I should put her on the bottom of the list, in the middle of the pile, or at the top of the card. And that's going to be a problem because as of right now, they only have a couple women that they've billed as being credible. You're only going to be able to see Riho versus Britt Baker so many times. You're going to have to build some of these other women into more prominent roles, and maybe that starts with having a second women's match on the show, or making sure that there's a woman match on AEW Dark, or bringing them into being the elite, or whatever you have to do to get them more prominent. With all that being said, as you can look over right here, this is how my tier ranking went down. A little surprised on where it is. It's a very balanced card, not too top heavy, not too bottom heavy. A lot of great talent all the way across the roster from the top to the bottom. I think this is a very eclectic group, and it's going to make for good television. I think going forward, we're going to see nothing but the best. I'm a real fan of the company so far. I think they've done some really good things. Again, they're not perfect as so far, but no company is in their first couple months. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see where they go from here. But as of right now, this is what we have for AEW, and I think it was a great showing, and I think this was a fun way to test out my video capturing devices, and maybe we'll see more if you guys like this. Maybe I'll do SmackDown or NXT or MLW or who knows what. But anyway, let me know what you think. Put some likes and all down in the comments. Like, comment, share, all that great stuff every YouTuber says. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and it's been another episode of Heel Heat.